All right, we are now recording. All right, we're going to start some icebreakers. So, excuse me. The first one, it's feeling a lot like fall outside, so we want to know what your guys' favorite fall traditions are. I definitely have a specific one. I'm going up to Wisconsin for the deer season and Thanksgiving, so spending time sitting out in the woods, freezing my butt off is my fall tradition. And if you guys aren't able to access the Menti or you don't want to access it, feel free to just tell us through your microphone or something. Nice camping, frying turkey, great. Backyard football, eating pie, pumpkin patch and decorating pumpkins with the kids, sweet. And bonfires, those are awesome. Roasting pumpkin seeds, I did that this year and I got two of the luckiest pumpkins ever. They had a lot of seeds on them. So I was eating on those for about a week or so. Good idea to use all of the pumpkin, I like it. All right. So with it feeling like the cold temperatures are starting to hit, I saw that the Packer game up at Lambeau this last weekend, they had a few inches of snow. So I want to do a little comparison for all you sports geeks. Would you rather play quarterback for an entire football game in snowy -13-degree weather, just like the coldest football game ever played, the Ice Bowl in 1967, Cowboys versus the Packers, or would you rather play catcher for an entire baseball game in 103-degree heat, which was the highest temperature ever recorded for a World Series game in 2017? I think it was Dodgers versus the Astros.
Did anybody see the Canada-Mexico soccer match last night? It was played in Edmonton, 15 degrees.
Oofda. That's a rough one. I'm gonna have to go with the snow. Okay, so it looks like the the hot weather takes it as the catcher. I don't blame you guys. I don't think I could throw a football in -13 degrees.
Most were wearing, Shelly, most were wearing tights and long sleeves in the game last night.
Yeah. All right, last question. Have you guys used the new bike lane extension on Gillum Road? They just extended it past Children's Mercy, so it makes our commute a little bit easier if we don't want to take our vehicles. Okay, most people said not yet. I think the one person is probably Robin. I see that he hasn't been driving there too often. He's been taking the bike, so props to him. I have also not used it yet, but I'd like to. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for doing the icebreakers with us. We'll give you kind of an update on what our agenda is going to be for the day, and then we can get right into things. I think we'll probably be ending early today with how things are looking, but Robin, I'll pass it on over to you. It looks like Robin might be on the phone here. Let's see if I think he has the agenda. If anybody has any updates or anything with your organization or resources to share, we can kind of jump to that. You can share them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll wait for him to hop back on the call here.
Sorry, Bill was having trouble getting on. So
no problem.
Just Bryce, could you maybe text Bill the call-in number?
Yeah, I'll send him the link and send him the call-in number here.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
No problem.
Sorry about that. Glad you guys could make it on without any difficulties. So just to kind of recap, for those of you who were in our October meeting, at that meeting, we finalized our sports sector strategies and tactics. So kudos to you guys. That was several months of work, lots of discussion, lots of meetings. But at the end of the day, I think we did a really good job. really prioritizing what what we feel are the needs and the strategies to address those needs for sports sector in the Kansas City region. And so I'm going to, Bryce, I know you're in the middle of that, but when you're done texting Bill, could you throw the link to the Google Doc with the final sports strategies
Totally.
in the chat box? Just a quick update on those. So we made the decision to keep all of the National Physical Activity Plan sports strategies that they had already developed, and we simply just prioritized the ones that were of most importance to our region. That's what you'll see in this document that Bryce shares. We're going to have those up on the website in December. So we'll send out probably a follow-up email when that actually happens. But they'll be on the website, on the KC Physical Activity Plan website in December. We'll wait and put them in the actual Kansas City Physical Activity Plan report until we get the mass media sector up and get those strategies and tactics done. That's scheduled to happen in February, but I think most people use just the website anyway, so the website will be updated. So just go to that as you're kind of referring people to the sports sector. You just send them to the website. That's going to be the most current and up-to-date information. The Google Doc that Bryce just shared is still open for editing. So if you have any comments or suggested edits specifically to the piece of the report at the very beginning, where we talk about the need in Kansas City and the powerful role that sports might play in our life, that's where you can find that, and you can edit that information and add any things that you think might be missing. So that's still open for editing, and that will remain open until we actually publish in the actual report, in the actual plan report, like I said, in the spring. Just a second. And so what we're going to talk about today is the next steps of this group moving forward. And there really are a whole host of different ways that we can go here. There's Bill and his dog hopping on. And really, it's up to this group to decide what happens going forward. Every sector that we have in the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan looks a little bit different and has decided to move forward in different ways, ranging from some have actually kind of taken a hiatus and they just meet once every 4 or 5 months to touch base, and others meet every month, and some others have probably the most involved, I would say, are a couple different groups have created very specific subgroups to work on specific projects. And those groups meet very regularly, either every couple weeks or on a monthly basis. And then they come back as a larger group, as a larger sector group, about every 3 months or so, just to update everyone else. And so, for example, the one that's really active right now is the healthcare group. And so they have 3 subgroups that they've created. One is working on getting curriculum in schools. Another is working on establishing a program called Walk with the Doc, where people can walk with healthcare providers from Children's Mercy. And then the third is working on insurance reimbursement for counseling on physical activity. So those are the three things that they decided to do. And those groups, I think, meet on about a monthly basis. And Shelley is the support person for that group, so she can provide any more details. Dr. Roberson, who's on the call, he's leading one of those subgroups as well. So if we have questions about the formatting of how something like that might work, we can ask them. So I guess maybe this today is just designed to be kind of an open discussion about how to move forward. So I guess, does anybody, I'll just start out by just opening up to see if anybody had any thoughts on how to move forward, on what they would like to do moving forward.
I'm a big believer in following a model that works. And it seems to me that the healthcare model is working really well. And so that would be, my hope is that we would come up with 2 or 3 subcommittees that would work together and would report back to us as a whole, and that any one of us could participate in any one of the subgroups, given the amount of time and energy and bandwidth that each of us might or might not have.
Great, thanks for that comment.
Yeah, this is Jay. That makes sense to me. Sorry, I'm not turning on my video. I'm eating, so I don't think anybody wants to see that. But yeah, I think the smaller groups and reporting back works well.
Oh, we can't hear you, Adrian.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go.
I guess I could turn the volume up on my mic. You would think I would know that by now. But good to see everybody. Man, I'm with you all. I think the current process that we have seems to be working. There seems to be a genuine heart for all of us that are here to see this continue. So I'm all for that. Don't change it if it's working.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, it sounds like we've got, some strong consensus moving in that direction. So then I guess the next question would be, what are some of the topics that we would like to specifically focus on in these groups? I mentioned in healthcare, they didn't say, oh, we want to have a meeting around strategy 1, and people who want to work on strategy 1 go here, and people who want to work on strategy 3 go over here. Instead, they identified things within the tactics that they wanted to implement. And my understanding is some of them were kind of easy win things, and some were kind of more long-term issues. And so we can do anything like that. I spent my morning going back through the rankings that this group has done for strategies and tactics, and then also going back to the Kansas City Youth Sports Workshop that was held in July. There was lots of great discussion and planning done there, including these prioritization charts where you can identify things that are of high impact, high feasibility, low impact, low feasibility, things like that. And so I've kind of gotten a sense of some things that we might that there might be current interest in, and I can share that. Or if you guys just have right now, no, I know that I want to work on something related to access or something like that. We can just dive right into that.
So Robin, just to kind of echo or mirror what you're saying. Having groups around strategies doesn't work. Groups need to be organized around the tactics that we're trying to execute. And, there is reason for us to come together and decide which tactics we think are not only the easiest to implement, but also have the biggest impact, and measure those, but, with each other. I think that we've been working on some tactical things as a group. I go back to Pastor Robertson's desire to have a Kansas City Physical Activity Day at Hy-Vee Arena as a critical tactic that I think if we were to have a group centered around pulling that thing off, it would get a lot further than just having it be a loosey-goosey strategy that at some point in our future we want to get together. So that being said, I haven't done the work that you've done this morning, and I am interested in hearing your thoughts on which tactics and which tactics related to the strategies that we've selected kind of jump out to you. So I am interested in hearing your opinion.
Great. Well, maybe let me share my screen real quick. And okay, so what you're seeing right now is the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan sports sector priority strategies that we have worked on for the past several months. So just as a reminder, there were 3 strategies that really rose to the top. Those were strategy 3, which was about expanding access to recreational space and quality sports programming, focusing on eliminating disparities in access. And then there were 4 tactics within that strategy. Strategy 7 was the second highest rated. And so that was coaches, game officials, parents, caregivers should create safe and inclusive environments for sports participation that promote physical activity and health. And there were 5 tactics there. And strategy 4 was the third ranked strategy. Sports organizations should adopt policies and practices that promote physical activity, health, participant growth, and physical literacy. So if we dive into some of those tactics, the 2 top rated tactics for the access strategy was using data to identify those who are at risk, to create targeted initiatives. So I made a note there of surveillance and assessment. And the other tactic was prioritize community-based affordable forms of organized play, such as in-town leagues, and offering these formats not just for young kids where you often see them, entry-level sports leagues, but all the way through adolescence, so into high school, things like that. So for that one, I made a note around free play, sports sampling, and access. So the next strategy was the one about promoting physical activity and health through inclusive environments. The 3 tactics there were about sports sampling again, informal sports, including pickup games and self-selecting of sports was one tactic. Another tactic was following this kind of safe sport program. This is really about preventing like abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, things like that within a sports league. And then the last tactic was around creating a positive environment in sports about focused on fun, discovery, being a role model, other topics. And so again, those we had kind of touched on before: sports sampling, free play, and then this idea of like safe and inclusive sports. And then the last one around promoting physical activity, participant growth, and physical literacy. 3 tactics really were ranked high, and those were rewarding sports organizations that do a good job, that focus on underserved populations, pricing models and season guidelines that encourage multi-sport participation. So again, that's coming back to sampling and kind of the idea of safe sports. And the last one was around prioritizing what we in sports exercise and exercise physiology call moderate to vigorous physical activity. So that was again under the promoting health idea. So there was another one. I missed it here. I think it was right up here. And it was around kind of a unifying body to connect all of these different groups. So there were kind of 4 general themes that I think that our strategies and tactics represent. One is about promoting health through things like sports sampling, free play, safe environments, physical activity. One around access, creating increasing more access to sports for kids, whether that's through schools or free or affordably priced opportunities. And the last one was surveillance. Now, if we kind of switch to what we did in the Kansas City Youth Sports Workshop, let's see. There was one, are you guys seeing my pick chart now? Okay, so this one is about disparities in access. And so this chart represents on the left side of the screen, the potential impact. So low impact is at the bottom, high impact is at the top. And the top is representing how difficult it is to implement. So easy is on the left, hard is on the right. The green box represents those activities of high impact and easy to accomplish. So you should start there. The red is the kibosh, ignore, because they're low impact and hard to implement. And then there are some others that are more related to kind of long-term objectives and some potential quick wins. That's in this kind of tan box. So around disparities in access, potential middle impact, but easy to do would be conducting schools and sports leagues. Then as we move on up, increasing partnership with nonprofits, creating and promoting affordable programs, and bringing access activities to the neighborhood. So again, touching on some different things here, all of course related to access, of course, but some are more kind of long-term, some are maybe connecting to existing Kansas City physical activity plan sectors, for example, such as our school sector, and trying to work with them on potential opportunities there. So cross-sector work. The other charts that we had from the summer were about creating developmentally appropriate and health-focused programming. So again, this kind of touched on, the promotion of health through sports. Let me zoom in here just a little bit. So the things, remember, that we had talked about were sampling, sports sampling, free play, safe environments, and moderate to vigorous physical activity during sports and practice, competition practice. So probably the one that fell directly in the green box was helping parents understand volunteering opportunities, general tips and tricks for coaches. And there are a variety of credentialing or training opportunities out there for coaches to make sure that they're creating safe environments and environments where all kids are participating regularly throughout the practice to make sure that they get regular physical activity and not a lot of standing around, things like that. And then parent education, encouraging parents to think about things like sports sampling, participating multiple sports throughout a year, participating in just one sports league at a time, things like that. And then some others were related to implementing health-focused youth sports, and engaging stakeholders and groups to get the information and education that they need. So those were around health-focused programming. And then the last one that I'll share, and then we can kind of open it up for discussion, is policies, creating policies to promote the importance of sports. So this is where we're talking about kind of like a unifying body, which we see in here in the blue box, so a long-term, and this has come up several times, the idea of a sports alliance or a unifying body across our region. Some other things were, this might fit with the creation of the mass media sector within the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan. So creating digital content to promote sports. And here's the other one, establish mass media strategy around consistent messaging. Here's another one that kind of aligns both with that messaging piece and the surveillance piece, the data piece, using research and evidence to tell a storytelling, using technology to create opportunities for around access. And maybe Bill can kind of talk about that because I know he's worked with his app, the Ready to Play app. And then here's another cross-sector collaboration around physical activity and its benefits. So we've kind of hit on that a couple times here, this cross-sector collaboration. So there's a lot of information there. It can be kind of hard to tease out exactly some themes that might be arising, but I think as I look at this, the consistent themes are generally around a unifying body and alliance, a data piece, so like surveillance, the promotion of health, and that can mean lots of different things. The things that came up most often were sports sampling, in-town leagues, unstructured sports participation, so pickup games, things like that. And then the last one was access. So, but that's just kind of how I interpret things. Are there other kind of themes that after you guys look at this kind of rise to the top?
I think one major decision point, split point, I don't know what the right term is youth sports versus adult sports. So something where your parents got to sign you up for it and they got to take all the initiative to get you in there versus, you're 18, you're 19, you're in college, post-college, whatever. It's kind of your own thing. So I think those are going to be very different problems to navigate.
Yeah,
I think if you get an organizing body, then I think the data collection becomes easier. Because then you can say, hey, if you're going to be part of this, we need you to do these things. So yeah, I don't know, maybe one makes the other one just a lot easier.
Yeah, I will add just as the data piece in regards to the data piece. So we have, and maybe Bryce or Shelley, you could throw this in the chat, the report card. So we, a year ago, we created the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan report card for youth. It's focused on youth. And it assigned grades to overall physical activity and then lots of other different physical activity domains. One is sports participation. That data came exclusively from the Children's Mercy Health Assessment that is about to begin, will begin in the next 6 months, I think, Shelley, right? And we've been able to get some questions related to sports participation in there. However, they're quite crude. I think it's just how many sports did your child participate in, but it's better than nothing. That being said, there could be other opportunities through the Aspen Institute. They by far are the best in the nation around collecting sports participation data, more than just beyond how many sports do you participate in. We've had some conversations with them just informally about, hey, what could we do? And what types of things could we ask? So I think that there is potential there. And there might be a way to align something like the Aspen Institute questions with the Children's Mercy Health Assessment as one option. So, and then regarding you make a great point about youth and adult sports for sure. I know at the youth summit, or maybe not, maybe it was, Bill, do you remember, we had participation from the, and I'm blanking on their name, the adult rec group.
KC Crew.
KC Crew, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, and his wife. Yes, and they do quite a good job of providing rec options for millennials. Their target is really 21 through 35. And I would say that they probably have anywhere from 15 to 20,000 millennials involved at some level in different activities that they've produced, and they've opened up in St. Louis now. It's a pretty cool deal, and they've talked about what it would mean to provide high school students access to the same technology that they use to build out their leagues and teams and events. It's obviously.
Yeah, so like a bridge, I guess, Bill, from right now they're focusing on adults, but making like a bridge from adolescence into adulthood.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot there. I've along with Pastor Robertson, we've spent a lot of time thinking about youth because as we've come on to lead this sector, youth has kind of been our focus. I think that the entire Kansas City physical activity plan crosses over and is allows us to kind of contemplate what sports means to older Kansas Cityans. But I think from the very beginning we've targeted the youth sports side of this because that's where our hearts are, but also there's a huge need there. And the stat that 70% of all kids drop out of sports at age 13 it's a pretty universal stat across the country. It's actually shocking that it's real, but it's it's not hard to believe that in 8th grade, these kids don't have a lot of options other than high school sports. And if they're not skilled enough to play, they're not going to play because it's no fun to not play. So, they're not going to be there to ride the bench. And so creating opportunities like Pastor Robertson does with KC United and other organizations across the city makes, the target of youth kind of where we set our priorities. And I'm not interested in moving off of that unless someone convinces me otherwise.
I think we need both.
We definitely need both.
Yeah, I mean, I was
But I just
thinking
don't know.
that, whatever tactic we choose, I mean, there's obviously certain things that make a lot more sense for the youth sports part and not as big a deal, like making sure coaching and parent involvement, that's probably not a thing for the 21 to 35-year-old group that we got to worry about. We don't have to worry about coaches abusing kids because they probably aren't having, I mean, maybe they are. I don't know how KC Crew works, but I assume they don't actually have coaches. I assume they're out there playing as a group. Everybody's a coach, which can have its own set of issues. But yeah, with the kids, like the thing I keep going back to is if we're going to have an organization if we're going to try to create some organization that has some influence over multiple youth sports groups, then what's the best way to kind of get that started? Is it through something like the Safe Sport, let me just double check my name. The Safe Stars that Vanderbilt did, where they give like a rating and you can get a bronze star, a silver star, a gold star, and you've got these certain like something like Safe Sport where the coaches have to go through this curriculum. Is that a good place to kind of start? You get all these groups now coming together and they all kind of have something in common, and then you start getting everybody sitting in the same room together and you talk about what's good for making sports safe, and then you talk about access, and then you talk about inclusion, and then you kind of keep adding things on as you get those people together.
Right. Well, and there's something to be said about having one of our groups focus just on exactly what you're saying, Dr. Robertson. That would be what a committee would focus on, is how do we start this and where do we begin? I've had conversations with Kansas City Sports Commission and Jessica Blueblau for Win for KC about this very thing. I think we get support from HHS to start it. I think that once you got those two entities involved, start to get the stakeholders to be committed to sitting around a table and having these discussions, and then you'd need a team from the sports sector of the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan to kind of to manage what is, how does it fit into the overall strategies and that we've created. And so to me, that would one of the committees that we would form is that committee, the committee to build that entity.
And just, you mentioned Jessica Bluebach. She sent me a note. She had a conflicting meeting, so she is definitely participating going forward. She just couldn't make this one. So,
I mean, it's just a natural that it comes out of their group, and for her in her leadership role it plays, it's perfect. And I think that people will get behind it. Whether or not it'll make any difference or have any influence will be based on the commitment that we get from the stakeholders that are around the table. But it sure would be interesting to be in that first meeting where you started talking specifically about some of these big issues.
So it sounds like that's definitely an interest for a group, is kind of a subgroup to look at what this unifying body, this alliance, whatever would be. So we'll put that one down. And I guess how this works is, this is all course, it's all voluntary participation. So you can hop onto it whenever you want. You can hop off whenever you want. You can be on multiple groups at once. Doesn't matter.
Vote with your 2 feet, right, Robin?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Okay, so let's see. What are we thinking for another group? I know, sports sampling, some of these kind of health and well-being and physical literacy, that general idea, sports sampling, free play, that has come up multiple times. It seems to be something that everybody's interested in. In practice, I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. Everybody thinks we should do it, but to me, it's not exactly clear how we work through that. Whether it's through, like promotion or marketing or communication, things like that, or something else. And that can all be decided later, but is something around that theme of interest? Or I think the idea, I don't exactly know where the Safe Star program you mentioned, Jay, where that fits in, if that's more around like injury prevention or whether it's around, best practices for sports.
I mean, it's a lot like I think they utilize a lot of the strategies, the safe sports strategies, the U.S. Olympic Committee kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's more of a safety, not so much a physical literacy. Yeah, I think that's, yeah. So I think it's a little bit different, but, as far as expanding the sports sampling, something like Win for KC where they do that. I mean, that's what they do for a whole summer project. I don't know if it's more of can we form a committee to figure out how to help those organizations that already do that just do more? Or does it need, they do it well. I mean, it's unfortunately or fortunately only for girls. But something like that for everybody, just figure out a way to help them expand instead of creating new things. I don't know.
And I guess kind of to that point, weighing in is involved with some UMKC faculty, Joey Leitner, who we all know, and Amanda Grimes. They're doing a project called Move More, Get More. They're in their, I think, third year now, second or third year. They're focusing on after-school, non-competitive sports opportunities. And it's really focused on things like physical literacy and sports sampling. They do lots and lots of different activities. So, and I know that they're interested in participating once we get to kind of like the implementation phase of the sports sector. So maybe that could be something like that, whether it's expanding, getting Win for KC to connect with them or create something new that kind of bridges both of those.
Pastor Robertson has a lot of experience in trying to do a lot of different things in multi-sports and one sport and cheerleading and working STEM into his programming. I'm sure that he has a lot to say about it. I'm wondering, I just want to pop this question out there to the group and think, is one of our criteria for evaluating these committees the fundability of them? And is that not part of what we need to be thinking about? And I guess just wanted to think about that because, I have some different opinions about trying to do things that are fundable and that aren't fundable, so.
Great. It's a great comment, Bill. And some things that the KCPA plan is trying to implement is low or no cost, or is tied to existing funding. So for example, the Walk with the Doc program that was created, they got a small little grant to fund the fees related to that. And any ongoing costs, I believe, are just kind of covered by the people who are providing the educational content during the walks, I guess. Shelley, you?
Yeah. We partnered with an organization in Kansas who is covering the cost of our fees. That's sort of how we decided we were going to go this route, because there was an opportunity available. And all of the staff, healthcare professionals who are participating are doing it as volunteers. Our hope is, as we start doing that, more people are interested and we expand the number of sites across the city. That would require additional funding, but we hope we can demonstrate its effectiveness and success and then be able to expand. In fact, as we started talking about this, we've garnered interest from KU Med, who actually has their own program. We're hoping to partner with them as we move forward to promote their location along with ours to make it convenient for others, and UMKC as well. So I say that because I think once you get started and you start getting the word out that things are happening, then people are more interested in engaging because that's generally what people like to do. They like to feel like they're doing something. And part of the challenge with this work that we're talking about is, what's the next step? What's the first thing we're going to engage in so that others can see themselves in the work as well?
So yeah, I guess, like they're identifying things where there's potential funding available to start something with maybe little to no costs going forward after that initial investment. Other things, if we're talking about year-round programming that promotes sports sampling, obviously there's costs. That would be a pretty big cost. So how do you address something like that? Do you
So I wouldn't be
try to
opposed.
do
Robin.
something initially with the idea of trying to get funding after that, or just wait until the funding is available to do it? So
I wouldn't be opposed to suggesting to the group that we have a committee that focuses on expanding access and sports sampling as their focus, and then asking that group to come up with, a hierarchy of opportunities that they feel are, less expensive and more expensive, and maybe ranking those and bringing that back to the group and having us take a look at it. I think that would be a pretty tactical process that you could kind of get your head wrapped around and sink your teeth into. What does everybody else think?
Like an access and funding group.
Yes. Yeah. And then, with some ideas of what you would do with the money if you had it.
And I guess I will say, I mentioned this briefly as a part of the core work group meeting that we had as part of the KCPA plan yesterday. One of the overarching priorities of the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan, meaning it touches on all the sectors, is increased local funding for physical activity initiatives. As we know, anyone who's tried to get funding in the Kansas City region knows, for physical activity related activities, knows that it can be a challenge. But by collectively having a group say to these local funders, hey, there is a need here, here's what the need is, and here's how funds would be used, I think would be quite valuable. There is an impending crisis happening, I would say, because the largest local funder, I believe, is about ready to, from my understanding, move away from funding physical activity initiatives. And so this is It's
Who
going
is
to
that,
be,
Robin? Is that
well,
Health Forward?
it hasn't been announced yet, but in January, Health Forward Foundation will come out with their new funding priorities. I've just heard through the grapevine that certain people have kind of been hinted to that their physical activity projects that they've had funded in the past will not be funded going forward.
So that's interesting you say that. Shelley and I had a conversation last week about Health Forward specifically and about how we would work together to present a compelling case for them to fund this plan. And I think that mental health and physical activity is the key to their heart. I think they're looking for mental health funding, and I think we can put together a really strong case based on the science that we've presented 2 weeks ago and what Dr. Leitner's been working on, and Gina, and across the country, what is coming out about the connection between mental wellness and physical activity. And I told Shelley, I can't imagine them saying no to that grant request. I just don't, it just doesn't, I would be so upset that I would ask Torian Porter to write, a scathing article about Health Forward and what the hell they might be doing, not funding something so important, because it is a national crisis. And kids are killing themselves. And physical activity is an answer. And it's not medication, and it's not drugs, and it's not SSRIs. It's not any of that bullshit. It actually works, as does coaching, as does mentorship, as does all the things that sports brings. I don't mean to get on a big soapbox, but if they do something like that, they're making a huge tactical and strategic mistake.
well, I guess we won't know for sure until they release their updated priorities. But I think that's the value of this group. And the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan in general is we can say, listen, it's not just the people who want to ride, want to bike to work. It's that are asking for these fundings. It's the entire spectrum of physical activity, from youth sports all the way up to adult participation. So.
Hey, Robin?
Yes.
I mean, if this is something that we can get confirmed, because I'm quite sure a lot of us here are feeling the same thing that Bill, that's what I said, that Bill is feeling. Maybe KCPA could have, as a group, just have a conversation with them and talk about the potential of the impact that a decision like that could have on those that they may not be considering, excuse me, who would be impacted, and so, I'm noticing that KCPA is gaining momentum around the city. A lot of people are hearing more about us. And with the people that we have, not just in the sports sector, but in the other varying sectors, once you're able to confirm that that is a fact, then perhaps before 2022, we've got between now and December, we get a few of us together to, maybe from each one of the sectors, or just some key people that could sit down with those leaders and say, we'd really like you to reconsider making that decision for these factors and having data to support that. And then go from there. I'm with Bill, and especially even on the KCK side, we're noticing we're starting to get a group of people together to form a committee to start meeting with all the businesses that are coming into KCK. But how are you supporting KCK? So we've got Amazon that's got like 9 football fields over here now, with it seems like, and all these other entities that are coming into the city, let alone some of the other entities that are here that aren't doing anything, literally. So, you got KLC, we talk about, you got to raise the heat. Sometimes we got to talk about the elephant in the room. and especially with a group like what the group you're talking about, you know, if health, what'd you say it is, the Kansas City Health? Who'd you say it was?
Health Forward,
Yeah,
the Health Forward Foundation.
that's kind of a hard sell if health is just has boundaries. If you put, you know what I'm saying? If you just make it for this versus what does that mean? And then just, you know, just having a real literal conversation. And, you know, man, we as I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna shut up, as a community, the last thing I think people want is bad pub. That's real talk. I mean, I don't think with all this going on, I don't think anybody wants bad publicity. And that's not a threat. Just the fact of the matter is, if we don't stand up for our communities, then who will? You know, the whole community. So that's just what's on my heart as I'm hearing Bill express himself, but then also with the impact that this entity can have. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Yeah, you guys both make really, really good points. I do have a meeting scheduled tomorrow to learn a little bit more about this. And then Shelley and I, you know, we're meeting tomorrow as well. So I'm assuming we'll find out a little bit more information as we do a little bit of digging. But as I mentioned in the core work group meeting, yes, I would like to have just like some sort of ad hoc meeting in December of people who are particularly interested in this topic. And we would do, you know, figure out what the best strategy is, whether that's having a conversation, whether that's, you know, writing some letters, you know, I don't know exactly what that would be, but I'm glad to hear that there's strong support for doing something.
Yes.
So it sounds like, I guess, getting back to the start, it sounds like we should probably have that be one of our second group around access. And I think access has a couple different meanings here. One is about, funding access, and the second is around access to actual participation. And, you know, they're probably very much related to each other. So that can be our second group. And we can leave it at that. We can continue to think about whether there should be another group, and none of this is set in stone either. So we can continue talking about it. We can also just do some things, and then in 4 months say we want to add this other group, and we can do it. So,
Hey, Robin,
go ahead. Lots of people.
Could the word advocacy be added to that group you just talked about? I mean, not to add a group, but just to add it to that second group you were talking about, where that group is advocating for access. Like, you know, I would say individuals, like we just said before, who aren't afraid to advocate for, you know, the voices that who don't have advocates for them in this sector that we're talking about, health and, you know, wellness for everybody. So that word popped up as you were explaining what that second group might be.
Yeah, and I was just looking that something similar has came up in the previous discussions, like over the summer. They called it a little bit different, but, you know, promotion, advocacy, promotion, educating, things like that, educating.
Well, and I was going to say that a third group could be that content creation group, the group that does tell the story, and that, you know, that could be the advocacy group in and of itself. There's a lot there. There's tons of you know, valuable content to capture.
That makes a lot of sense. And I like that idea. Do you think, so our mass media sector is developing their strategies and tactics right now. We've had, Bryce, two meetings, and we've got a third at the end of the month. And we'll probably have maybe two more after that, I think. So, and they're going to be great at that with messaging and communication. So we can start to meet with sports advocacy
So,
and
so,
education,
so
or kind of wait.
So Robin, I would say this, and this is, I said to Shelley too, the master brand is the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan. And for me, the mass media group is charged with promoting all of the sectors and all the work that's being done. I think inside the sports sector, there is a story to be told that can feed the mass media group with content that we would like them to help us share, and can also work collaboratively with them to create, broader messages that include sports, but also include early childhood and schools and the healthcare and the other sectors. So I do think that I do think that there's a reason to have our own focus on creating sports content and the advocacy that Pastor was talking about.
Great. Let's do it. So just so, kind of I'm clear, we should probably have an access group that is around access to participation. And then a second group that is around advocacy, education, promotion, storytelling. And
Correct.
great. So there's 3 groups right there. We can continue to brainstorm groups and maybe come up with new ones, or see maybe they'll fit within some existing ones, or we can kind of wait, get these 3 groups off the ground, and then as we meet, say in 3 months, and hey, we've made this much progress. We've also think that this is a new topic that deserves its own subgroup. Thoughts? Shelley, I guess you were going to say something a little bit earlier. Feel free to.
Yeah, it's not necessarily about starting a new group, but it's just about a potential opportunity that I'm not sure, at least I don't remember talking much about it during this group, and that's Corporate Challenge. So Corporate Challenge obviously focuses on businesses in the area participating in sport activities and a wide variety of them. They promote recreational participation with some, higher level of competition involved. But they have a huge reach, and it is about promoting sport. And it is Johnson County Parks and Rec who supports that. So I see some cross-sector potential opportunities. The reason I bring it up is because it's top of mind. I've been on our company's coordinating group for quite some time. And we, through Weighing In, host a Fit-tastic Family Fun Zone at their kickoff event to focus on physical activity for kids. And so I'm just, again, bringing it up from a potential opportunity perspective. Again, don't know if there'd be another subgroup that would specifically talk about opportunities there. I really think, and have thought this for quite some time, that it would be really awesome if at their adult activities, there were activities for kids going on at the same time in a way that's similar to what Win for KC does in their sports sampling camp, in their camps. You know how they have experts in that area who are hosting and introducing the sport to kids? How great would it be for parents to bring their kids to the Corporate Challenge event, and their kids have an opportunity to sample that same sport with experts in the, I think about tennis and the USTA. They have a really nice setup to introduce kids to tennis. First Tee has a really great way to introduce kids to golf. And those are a couple of the organizations that have participated in the Fit-tastic Family Fun Zone at the kickoff event.
That sounds incredible. And I think that's what the access group would look at. Like, that sounds to me like what that group would look at. Is that right? Am I right?
Absolutely could be. I'm just bringing it up because they're going to be starting their planning process, and I want this group who's focused on sport to think about how we might interact with what they've already got put in place to advance
Right.
what we're doing.
I
And
love
so
it.
maybe this gets back to kind of Jay's original point at the beginning, is like, as these groups are doing their work, they should consider both adult and youth opportunities. I think that makes a lot of sense. And you
I totally
mentioned the parks, the corporate challenge and parks cross collaboration, and we're starting the business sector. That's another one right there, right?
Well, the Kansas City Youth Sports Commission used to do a thing like that where they would pick a sport and they would have 3 or 4 coaches out there, and they'd have like a morning where the kids would be out there. The parents would come and we would go talk to the parents about sports injuries or whatever while the kids were playing. But the corporate challenge idea is a cool idea, way to make that happen, where the kids would be around the sports that are already going on with the adults. And I don't know, from what I understand, there's no plans to restart that Kansas City Youth Sports Commission deal where they did that. So maybe we call it the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan Youth Sports Commission. I don't know.
Adrian, you've got your hand raised. Oh, you can't.
Blame it on COVID, man. My fault. So I was going to say, Jay, I know Jay had a point. He didn't get his point in, but I'm glad he did. One of the things I'm loving about this conversation is I know we just ended our football season. We're entering into 2022, where our emphasis is going to be on the parents. And so we're working with Hy-Vee for our after school program, whereby at least minimum 2 days a week, when we take the kids down to Hy-Vee to do their physical activity, we want the parents to come down as well. And so we'll have some weekends set up where the parents can come down and they can play basketball, or they'll be, just educated about the need for physical activity. And what seems to get the parents is if you get the kids. And I like the flip that Shelley was talking about. You get the parents, bring the kids, and make it just this holistic family event. So I think Jay is onto something. I think this group is getting onto something. I mean, we love the kids, absolutely. However, with the amount of trauma and everything that we've seen that's cutting across all the age groups, man, if you get the parents involved with their kids and have some little incentives there to get them to come, it's crazy. I would think we would need incentives. However, if that's the case, to get parents to come out and work out with their kids, get a 45-minute workout, get a little mist, if not a sweat, just to get the seed planted, that might be something that could really help us become this group that is really standing out from a lot of other entities when it comes to holistic health from a physical aspect of the family. So that's good stuff, Jay and Shelley. That's good stuff.
Big time. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, by creating those bonds with the parent and the kid in a shared experience, you're more likely to have sustained long-term behavior changes. That's been clear. Kids who I grew up, my mom was a walker. That was when I was the little kid. That was my favorite thing to do, was go on a walk with my mom. And I am convinced that set me when I was on the track I'm on when I was 5 years old, just because that was a shared activity with my family. And I think we can all think back to our own families and probably have similar experience with sports or hunting or you name it. So
I think my parents, as far as they walked, was kitchen to the bathroom. I think that was about it. But but man, imagine promoting that. Imagine getting families, moms and dads and caretakers of their kids to talk about what a blessing it is to have fun with their kids, and having kids say what you just said. And then here comes KCPA in the background, like, oh, in case you didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Something like that.
Yeah.
So.
And,
yeah, man, that's
that
good
falls
stuff.
under that theme of access and promotion of health. I mean, we talked about promoting physical activity, but physical literacy, that falls under that scientific term of physical literacy and family activities. So I'm just taking.
I think there's a lot of opportunity to already do this with, organizations and maybe sporting events that are already taking place around Kansas City. If we can try to think in those unique ways for how to, either match it up where adults are doing physical activity and kids can do it in the background or vice versa. Maybe we're the people that see these external organizations or other people doing this work and then try to think in that unique way and put that spin and say, hey, have you guys thought about, having a kid zone to enjoy the same sport? Have you thought about getting the parents involved instead of, just coming to a practice and assuming they're going to, be sitting in the stands watching the entire time, kind of having it happen organically, but asking them and, providing the opportunity to do that, which is, not always the case. They just assume, I'm going to go, I'll take my kids there, I'm going to drop them off, or I'll just stay and not move with them. So that's a unique opportunity we can propose.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Well, we've covered a lot of really good things. And so we're to the point where we've got our three groups, kind of the one subgroup around an alliance unifying body type subgroup, access and promotion of health, access to participation, promotion of health, which includes lots of different things, sports sampling, family engagement, I guess maybe we'll call it. Third one around advocacy, education, promotion. Anything else that we want to try, or do you think that I think that's probably a good place to start for the mighty group, and then I anticipate as we start doing some of these things, this will grow and grow and grow.
The only thing I would put in a bullet is the, we did have the opportunity to have a Hy-Vee Arena Kansas City physical activity event. That may be a bullet underneath the advocacy that we try to do sometime this winter, where we get all the sectors together, like Adrian's vision, and share some time together and talk. I don't know. That's seems like something that would be worth at least talking about.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know you guys, you two, Bill and Adrian, have had some discussions on this already. So, maybe I would say we would kind of look to your leadership on this one.
Yeah, and I think
if we can do that.
I think Woody might be open to that as an opportunity for Hy-Vee as well. If we kind of framed it as an event for people to see what kind of sports are being held at Hy-Vee throughout the year. And that was kind of like a kickoff for them to do some sampling, figure out what's out there. And then maybe after that, they can branch into these other sport opportunities through Hy-Vee or elsewhere in the city. And it'd be fun for everybody to be together if we can make that happen. So yeah, I think Adrian and Bill, you guys can spearhead that. That's for sure. And as we're thinking through these subgroups, I'm already starting to kind of file some of our partners and organizations that are doing this work or would make sense for these subgroups. One that comes into mind, and I don't think Jason or Jim have been on the past two calls, but they have been pretty involved in the past. They both work for 4D athletes, and they actually do a really good job of advocacy, development of young athletes, kind of transitioning their sport into, developing them as a, holistic human. They also do a good job of storytelling. Like I've hopped on a couple of their LinkedIn interviews with, professional sport athletes, people within Kansas City who tell their story and then they relate it back to some of their findings and learnings and teaching. So they'd be a good fit for, I think, either the access group or advocacy and promotion. So.
Yes,
I love that.
yeah, that's a great segue, Bryce. And so I guess what we'll do, as we are wrapping up this meeting here, we've engaged with lots of different people over the course of the past 6 months or so. And they've been on a meeting or 2 meetings or things like that. And so we have this group. I don't know how, Bryce, do you know how many people are on our distribution list here for the sports sector?
I think we have about 50. Excuse me, 50 to 60.
And so we can maybe we can do, what format is that in? Is that like an Excel file or what?
Yeah, I can export that as Excel.
Or I guess what I'm trying to get at is we can communicate everything we just talked about today with the people already on our distribution list. But then we should probably maybe review it again and see if people are missing. So maybe if you can do that, and we can work with Bill and Adrian and start out there to make sure that we've got all the people that you think they're on there. Melissa, I see you have your hand raised.
Let's try all of this. I don't even know if my camera is working. Yes, I just
It's
wanted
working.
I wanted to say something before you guys shut down. I'm actually the new adaptive sports manager at the Whole Person. So some things that I'm trying to, there was just never a good time to interject this, but the things I'm trying to work on along with our programming that we already have going is integrating able-bodied with our disabled programs. So for example, wheelchair tennis, I'm inviting anybody able-bodied who'd like to learn about wheelchairs tennis or volunteer with us to come try tennis in a chair. I'm also coaching track and field and trying to put together a track team for individuals with disabilities, but along with that, there'll be aids for blind runners needed. We have jumps indoors already set up and things like that for pole vault, high jump, everything like that for Paralympic athletes. So it's just a way to incorporate able-bodied with disabled sports as well. And I also want to start things like sitting volleyball or goal ball where we can invite the community in. So it makes the playing field even for everybody. Everybody wears a blindfold for blind sports. So that way people with disabilities can play and then also bring counterparts to play with them. So I just wanted you guys to keep that in mind. If there's any way that it can help, I wasn't sure that I was going to join any committees or learning, I was just learning what you guys were doing today. So, but I wanted to say something before you close down the meeting.
Thank you so much for saying that, Melissa, and thanks for joining us. That is great information. And one thing that we can always do better at is thinking about access for all body people. And so I think it's easy to for most of us because it's not a top of mind. And so we really appreciate you saying that, and we would really appreciate any type of participation from either you or Anthony or anyone else from Whole Person as we move forward. And that of course can be any of the other groups that we've got that we'll be convening, or if you can't make it to any of those, we can just meet outside of those just to make sure we have that perspective, because I think we want to make sure we include it. So thank you so much.
100%. And Melissa, I would like to thank you for speaking up and for sharing and for being here and just listening to us. And I think it makes our case even stronger going to someone like Health Forward or any of the other institutions that provide funding for these kinds of things. If we, as inclusive as possible, look for every single way we can to engage the whole community. And I love it. So
great. Yeah, thank you. Jay, did you have your hand up?
Well, yeah, when you start talking about adaptive sports, it made me think, Bryce, do we have Mark Fisher? Is he on the distribution list for this group?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just making, just made me think of that. And then obviously once we get the different tactics groups established and when they're going to be, I think there's plenty of people, Nicole and Kayla and I, between our physical therapists, athletic trainers, and docs who might want to be on specific subcommittees who haven't been on the big group, and they might have some input as well. I'm sure everybody's got people like that who might get more involved as we get into more specific, smaller groups.
One final thing, I did hear back from Children's Mercy Hospital in asking them to help with the movement is the medicine. Am I still on mute?
No, you're good.
The movement is the medicine 5K race walk and family fun day. We've added a drill team. We have a DJ. We're going to have Simon. I'm going to do Simon Says. So if you guys want to see me do that. But Children's Mercy is now going to have their own team. It's Just Walk Children's Mercy. Shelley set that up. We can put a link or share a link out to everyone, but I'm going to get some promotional help internally from philanthropy. Erica Long has stepped up and is going to help. And eventually I want to get in front of Margot and really talk to her about movement as the medicine as a program that we all get behind. So, but that being said, the race is November 28th. It's the Sunday after Thanksgiving. It's at 10 a.m. It's at Homestead Country Club. And we would love to have all the support we can get, and also share it out as much as you can once you get the information.
Great. I just threw that sign up link in the chat box for you.
Find the
If you go to
team.
teams and team is Just Walk. It's the Just Walk team.
Do we have to just walk?
Nope. You can win the race, Robin.
I'm not at that point right now. Any other comments, announcements? Yeah, your volume, Adrian. I don't know what's going on.
I'm gonna figure it out, man. I need an admin bad. My brain's all over the place. I need an admin. So let's get some funding for Adrian to get an admin. So anyway, we two things. One, thank you all so much for your support, for coming out and helping us this year. We actually served over 650 athletes this fall with football. Had the craziest 5th and 6th grade championship game I've ever seen in 30 years. The game ended up 8-6. It was amazing. And so this Sunday, so everyone's on a break right now, but this Saturday, if anyone's available, we're having a food giveaway at our church in our parking lot. And so we're giving the kids exposure to community service. And so if you're available Saturday and you want to come out, it's from 3 to 5 at 1119 North 5th Street, Berean Fellowship Church. And we're going to give out 100 turkeys and 100 chickens and dinners to a community that is in desperate need. So if you'd like to donate, just let me know. We're looking for non-perishable items. We want them to have a nice Thanksgiving. It may not fill them up, but at least they'll know that the community cares. So we got a lot of community partners and folks. So, but I really want to thank you all for coming out and supporting like you did. And you came to our first early in the season when we're doing our family fun days. And so everyone's kind of tired of taking a break. We're going to do one more thing and then we're done for 2021. So again, thank you, KCPA, for all that you've done to help us this year. Thank you, everybody.
Well, and I want to give a big thanks to, kind of as we put a cap on the planning process for the sports sector and we move into the next phase, I want to give a big thanks to our two co-leads. Well, first of all, let me first say a big thanks to Bryce Miller for serving as support for this group. Bryce does so much behind the scenes. He handles all the communication, and he really, really stepped up to support this group. So big thanks to Bryce.
No problemo.
And then I want to thank our two co-leads, Adrian and Bill. You guys have been great leaders throughout this process. It's a long process, and it relied on a lot of trust on your behalf and faith on your behalf in us, the weighing in team, to help us get to where we are today. And sometimes it's hard to know at the beginning what it's going to look like at the end. But we really appreciate your leadership throughout the way. Not that you're going away or anything like that, but just as we cap on this phase of the developmental process. So thank you to you both. What will happen next is the weighing in group will get our notes together, and we'll start setting up the structure, the support structure for those 3 groups. And we will send out an email to the entire group with some sort of way to communicate what these groups are, and identifying a way to schedule the first meetings and set up the structure for those meetings. So look for that. It's a little bit tricky because we've got Thanksgiving coming up next week. So I'll say maybe the final week of November, that first week of December, probably look for that to come to your inbox with more information. So thanks, everyone. We appreciate your involvement and all the time and effort you've put in.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Shelley.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Take
Talk to you
care.
soon.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Stay safe.